Since we have noticed a lot of people complaining about issues with their stem bearings, we decided to make a maintenance video. Usually, these bearings need to be replaced due to either a lack of lubrication or simply incorrect adjustment. Unfortunately, this often occurs right from the factory. After over 40,000 kilometers, it was time to give them a checking and some maintenance. As you can see, the bearing shells have a slight discoloration, but no damage can be felt. Both the bearings and seals are still in good condition, but they are quite dry and need new bearing grease. Therefore, we thoroughly clean everything, apply a generous amount of grease to the bearing cups and press new grease into the bearings by pushing it into the gaps and moving the bearing with our hands until it is nicely filled with grease again. Afterwards, we place the upper bearing back into the bearing cup and fill everything evenly with grease. We then reinsert the steering tube into the frame, put the seal back on and secure everything with the adjustment nut, tightening it by hand. Clean everything, including the upper thread of the steering shaft, and remount the upper fork bridge. Finally, we place the washer and the main nut back onto the steering shaft. However, we do not tighten the nut yet. Degrease the fork legs and place them back into the fork bridges. Note that we only tighten the screws of the lower clamp. The upper ones must remain loose. We have now reached the crucial part of this video, the correct adjustment of the stem bearings. Take plenty of time for this step, as it will determine whether your steering bearings will last a long time or wear out quickly. Look for a flat screwdriver to be able to tighten the adjustment nut from the side. We only use the heel of hand to adjust it, since it doesn't need a lot of force. Tighten the nut gradually bit by bit, until no play can be felt in the bearing. In between, we check the bearing play by grabbing the upper fork legs with our hands and wiggling them. It's important to use the upper and not the lower ones for this, as the bushings of the fork usually have some play as well. Ensure that everything moves freely and that no cables or lines impede the smooth movement of the steering. Move the handlebar back and forth to check if the steering is already too stiff. Since the upper clamps of the fork legs are still loose, you might also feel their play and not play in the stem bearings. Keep that in mind. Once no play can be felt and the steering moves smoothly, we can tighten the upper main nut securely. Note that this usually compresses the stem bearing further. Therefore, it might be necessary to loosen the main nut again to unfasten the adjustment nut slightly. As soon as the steering is still smooth after tightening the main nut, we also tighten the screws of the upper fork clamp and then, as a precautionary measure, double check the stem bearing play one last time. Thanks for watching, and we hope that this maintenance video can help you to ride thousands of kilometers without worn out stem bearings.